Your stomach drops, the temperature in the room shifts, she's suddenly cold, distant, or demanding, and you have no idea what you did wrong. Most men panic. They apologize for crimes they didn't commit. They scramble to fix her mood, and every single time they do, her attraction dies a little more. Darn. But here's what you don't understand. She is not malfunctioning. She is testing. This is the control instinct, a biological imperative encoded into female attraction. She seeks a man she cannot control, yet she is compelled to try. This is not malice, this is due diligence. She needs to verify that the man she's investing in has genuine strength, not a performance. Why does this pattern repeat across every relationship, every culture, every era? Because the stakes are asymmetric. Her biological investment, potential pregnancy, vulnerability, resource dependency is catastrophically higher than yours. She cannot afford to commit to a man who crumbles under pressure, so she applies pressure. The problem is this: most men interpret these tests as attacks. They adopt the defendant frame, reacting to her charges, explaining themselves, seeking her approval. Every time they do, they confirm her suspicion. He is weak. The shift you need is from defendant to judge. In the defendant frame, you are on trial. You answer to her emotional state. You justify your actions. You prove your innocence. In the judge frame, you evaluate her behavior. You observe her tactics. You rule on whether her conduct is acceptable. The difference is sovereignty. Here's the counterintuitive part. Her tests are not a sign she doesn't like you. They are a sign she respects you enough to verify if you're worth her investment. Failing the tests doesn't make her lose interest. It makes her lose respect. And without respect, attraction dies. The test is not the problem. Your reaction is the problem. But understand this: some women weaponize these tests. Some use them to control, not to verify. The SDP works for both. It separates the women worth your sovereignty from the ones who will never respect it. This video breaks down the Sovereignty Defense Protocol, the 5 specific tests she deploys to seize your frame, and the exact counter-protocol for each one. When you understand the mechanism, the test loses its power. You stop reacting. You start operating from control. That is the complete analysis of the WHI. Now, we move to the what. The Sovereignty Defense Protocol SDP itself. The SDP identifies 5 distinct frame seizure mechanisms. Each test targets a different vulnerability. Each requires a specific counter-protocol. We begin with Test 1, the guilt projection. Test 1, the guilt projection, emotional contagion. The mechanism is simple but devastating. She projects a negative emotional state, sadness, frustration, coldness, irritation, without providing a clear cause. She sighs. She gives one-word answers. She withdraws enthusiasm, and she offers no explanation. The trap: most men rush to fix the emotion. They ask what's wrong. They run diagnostics on every interaction from the past 24 hours. They accept responsibility for a state they did not create. This is emotional subsidization, and it destroys attraction. Here is the mechanism. When you regulate her emotions for her, you become her emotional thermostat, the external regulator she depends on. The moment you stop regulating, she panics. But the moment you start regulating again, you've confirmed that her emotional state controls your behavior. You are no longer sovereign. You are her utility. You are the emotional janitor, not the prize. You are useful, not desirable. Think of it like a thermostat in a building. The thermostat does not panic when the temperature fluctuates. It has its own set point. If external conditions shift, it maintains its internal calibration. It does not abandon its function to chase the temperature of the room. The sovereign response is amused mastery, the refusal to internalize her turbulence. Why does amused mastery work? Because it demonstrates that your emotional state has its own internal calibration. You acknowledge her turbulence without absorbing it. You are the thermostat that maintains its own set point, regardless of external conditions. You observe her mood without making it your responsibility to fix. Scenario: she comes home off, cold, short, no explanation. The defendant response: "What's wrong? Did I do something? Are you upset with me?" The sovereign response: "I see you're in a mood. I'll be in my office. Come find me when you want to talk." The difference: you've acknowledged the state without adopting it. You've offered connection without becoming her emotional regulator. You've maintained your frame. Once she knows she cannot guilt you into submission, she pivots. If emotion won't break you, scarcity will. She attacks your time. Test 2. The priority audit. Scarcity versus availability. And the mechanism targets your mission directly. She creates a conflict between her demands and your purpose, a last-minute request, an emergency that requires you to cancel your plans, a guilt trip designed to make you choose her or your mission. The trap: believing that sacrificing your mission demonstrates love. The brutal truth is this: the moment you choose her over your purpose, your value drops immediately. Not because she is cruel, because your scarcity vanished. Why does this dynamic operate so predictably? Because attraction is built on the scarcity principle. The resource that is always available requires no pursuit. The resource that has competing demands becomes valuable. Your purpose is the mission anchor, the immovable object in the relationship. It is the thing that existed before her and will exist after her. It is non-negotiable. Without it, you are adrift. You become reactive. You become available. You become boring. Think of it like a supply chain. If you flood the market with your presence, constant availability, zero competing demands, you devalue the resource. A strategic operator restricts supply to increase demand. Your time and attention are not infinite commodities to be dispensed on request. Scenario: she texts at 5 p.m. "Cancel the gym. I want to go to dinner tonight." The defendant response: "Okay, I'll skip it this once." The sovereign response: "I'm hitting the gym at 6. Let's do dinner at 8. No defensiveness, no explanation, no apology. You've maintained the mission anchor while offering connection on your terms. The counter protocol is the non-defensive numb. You do not justify. You do not apologize for having a purpose. You simply state your reality and offer an alternative. If she cannot command your time, she pivots again. If scarcity won't break you, absence will. She tests your tolerance for silence. Test 3. The withdrawal, the validation vacuum. The mechanism is the inverse of the first test. Instead of projecting negative emotion, she withdraws positive emotion. Sudden silence, delayed responses, a drop in enthusiasm. The energy that was flowing toward you stops. The anxiety gap is not just silence, it's the absence of validation. For most men, her attention is the primary source of external validation. When she withdraws that attention, your internal validation system malfunctions. You panic because you've outsourced your sense of worth to her presence. The trap: you fill the void with double texts, questions, check-ins. "Is everything okay? Did you get my message? Just thinking about you." Every message you send in the gap confirms her hypothesis. His stability depends on her validation. Why does the anxiety gap destroy attraction? Because it reveals that you have no independent source of emotional regulation. Your well-being is contingent on her attention. You are not sovereign. You are dependent. The psychological driver here is inertia. She is testing whether you can remain still when the validation feed is cut. Can you exist without her constant attention? Or do you crumble into neediness the moment she withdraws? Think of it like a stress test in engineering. The structure is subjected to pressure to verify its integrity. If it holds, the system is validated. If it fails, the flaw is exposed. Her silence is the stress test. Your response is the result. The counter protocol is the validation audit, immediate redirection of focus to your own life. The validation audit works because it forces you to redirect that validation-seeking energy inward. Instead of chasing her attention, you invest in your mission. You become your own source of validation. When the silence hits, you do not chase, you match. If she takes 6 hours to respond, you take 6 hours. If she sends a dry text, you send a dry text. You never exceed her energy investment. But more importantly, you redirect immediately. You hit the gym, you call a friend, you execute on your mission. You do not sit in the void waiting for her to fill it. Scenario: early dating. She usually texts within an hour. Suddenly, 8 hours of silence. The defendant response. Double text at hour 3. Hey, just checking in. The sovereign response. Nothing. You notice the silence, acknowledge the anxiety, and redirect to your own life. If she reaches out, you respond proportionally. If she doesn't, you've already invested in yourself. Silence failed to break you. She pivots once more. If absence won't destabilize you, competition will. Now she introduces a rival. Test 4. The competitive comparison. The jealousy trap. The mechanism weaponizes social proof against you. She mentions other men, a coworker who's really funny, an ex who's doing well, a guy who commented on her post. Male attention becomes a data point in the conversation. Here is the paradox. She is showing you she has options precisely because she wants to see if you care. If she didn't value your opinion, she wouldn't bother mentioning other men. The mention itself is a signal that she is testing whether you see yourself as the prize. The trap. Reacting with anger, insecurity, or competitive posturing. The pick-me dance begins. You puff up. You criticize the other man. You demand explanations. You broadcast insecurity. The moment you react with jealousy, you've confirmed her fear. You don't see yourself as the prize. You see her options as a threat. You've revealed that you are competing from a position of scarcity, not abundance. The concept at work is pre-selection, the principle that social proof increases perceived value. She has attention from other men. This should increase her value in your eyes, not threaten your position. The counterframe is outcome independence. You are the prize. Her other options are irrelevant to your internal valuation. You do not compete for her attention because your value is not contingent on winning a comparison. Think of it like a negotiation. The party that demonstrates desperation loses leverage. The party that can walk away holds the power. If you react to her mentions of other men with jealousy, you've revealed that you cannot walk away. You've lost the negotiation before it began. Scenario. She mentions casually that a guy at work asked her to lunch. The defendant response. Who is this guy? Why didn't you tell me? What's going on? The sovereign response. Bored indifference. Cool. What did you guys talk about? Or, simply, nice. And continue your day. The counter protocol is dismissive curiosity, a mild interest that signals zero threat. You are not competing because you do not need to. Her options do not diminish your value. She knows you aren't jealous. She's running out of options. Her final move is the ultimatum, to lock you down on her terms before you slip away. Test 5. The future demand, the compliance check. The mechanism targets the pacing of the relationship. She pressures for labels, timelines, or where is this going conversations, often prematurely. She wants exclusivity declarations, future commitments, certainty about the trajectory. The trap. Caving to her timeline to avoid conflict or losing her. You surrender the pacing of the dynamic. You commit before you're ready. You give certainty to avoid discomfort. Why does premature certainty kill attraction? Because of the Zeigarnik effect, the psychological principle that incomplete tasks occupy the mind more than completed ones. In relationships, this means the moment you provide certainty, labels, timelines, commitment, you become a solved puzzle. Her mind stops working on you. But as long as you remain an unsolved puzzle, present but unpredictable, her mind keeps returning to you. Certainty is closure, mystery is obsession. The counterframe is the process focus, shifting attention from the destination to the quality of the present interaction. You do not mortgage the present for a future commitment you're not ready to give. You do not negotiate your timeline under pressure. You lead the commitment conversation instead of being forced into it. Scenario week 3. She asks, so what are we? The defendant response, I really like you. I guess we're exclusive? The sovereign response, we're two people who enjoy each other's company. I don't rush these things. When I'm ready to have that conversation, you'll know. The counter protocol is present focus with leadership signals. You're not avoiding commitment. You're refusing to be pressured into premature compliance. You maintain the pacing while signaling that you have a direction. That completes the 5 tests of the Sovereignty Defense Protocol. Now, the tactical application. Here are your consolidated counter protocols for immediate deployment. The Sovereign Playbook. Consolidated Defense Protocol. The SDP framework is now complete. Let's move to execution. Here is your complete counter protocol for each test. Counter protocol 1, the guilt projection scenario. She comes home cold, distant, sighing, no explanation offered. Script, I see you're upset. I'll be here when you want to talk. Mechanism, you acknowledge her state without absorbing it. You offer connection without becoming her emotional regulator. Your internal set point remains stable. Why it works. She cannot control you through emotion if you refuse to be controlled. She loses the leverage. What happens if you fail? You become her emotional subsidy. Every mood swing becomes your responsibility. She learns that projecting negativity gets her immediate attention and compliance. Attraction erodes because you've become her utility, not her desire. Counter Protocol 2, the Priority Audit scenario. She texts demanding you cancel your gym session, your work commitment, or your plans with friends. Script, that doesn't work for me. Here's what I can do instead. Mechanism, the non-defensive none. No justification, no apology. Alternative offered on your terms. Your mission remains the anchor. Why it works. Your scarcity is preserved. She sees that your time has competing demands. Your value increases because you are not infinitely available. What happens if you fail? Your mission collapses. You become reactive and available. The scarcity that made you attractive disappears. She loses respect because you've demonstrated that her demands override your purpose. Counter Protocol 3, the withdrawal scenario. She goes silent for hours, texts become dry, enthusiasm drops. Protocol, match energy, never exceed. Redirect immediately to mission. Script, none. Silence is your response. Mechanism, mirroring eliminates the power imbalance. If she can take 8 hours, you can take 8 hours. Fill the gap with your purpose, not your anxiety. You become your own source of validation. Why it works? She discovers that her silence does not destabilize you. Your frame remains intact regardless of her attention. What happens if you fail? You double text. You chase. You reveal that her validation is your primary source of stability. She learns that withdrawing attention gives her control over your emotional state. Attraction dies because neediness is repulsive. Counter Protocol 4, the competitive comparison scenario. She mentions another man, a coworker, an ex, a guy who messaged her. Script, cool, or that's nice. Then continue your day. Mechanism, bored indifference signals outcome independence. You are not competing because competition implies you're not already the prize. Why it works? She sees that your options do not threaten you. You operate from abundance, not scarcity. Your frame is unshakable. What happens if you fail? You react with jealousy, anger, or interrogation. You reveal that you don't see yourself as the prize. You've shown her that other men are a threat to your position. Attraction collapses because insecurity is weakness. Counter Protocol 5, the future demand scenario. She pressures for labels, timelines, or where is this going conversations before you're ready. Script, I don't rush these things. When I'm ready, you'll know. Mechanism, present focus with leadership signals. Refuse premature compliance. Maintain the pacing you determine. You are leading the relationship, not being led. Why it works? You remain the unsolved puzzle. Her mind keeps working on you. You've demonstrated that you cannot be pressured into compliance. What happens if you fail? You cave to her timeline. You provide certainty before you're ready. The mystery vanishes. Her mind stops working on you because you've been solved. Attraction fades because there's nothing left to pursue. The diagnostic. Your system failure point. You now have the complete SDP framework. But knowledge without self-awareness is incomplete. Here is the shadow work. Which of these 5 tests triggers your specific wound? Do you crumble under guilt projection? That is the fear of abandonment, the terror that if you don't fix her emotions, she'll leave. This wound originates in early childhood when love felt conditional on your ability to manage a parent's emotional state. You learned that their mood was your responsibility. Do you sacrifice your mission at her request? That is the fear of insignificance, the belief that your purpose matters less than her approval. This wound originates when your needs were consistently deprioritized. You learned that your desires don't matter unless validated by someone else. Do you chase during withdrawal? That is the fear of invisibility, the anxiety that if she stops seeing you, you cease to exist. This wound originates when attention was inconsistent. You learned that love could disappear without warning, and silence meant you were forgotten. Do you react with jealousy to competition? That is the fear of replacement, the belief that you are interchangeable. This wound originates when you felt compared to others. You learned that your position was never secure, that someone better could always take your place. Do you cave to future demands? That is the fear of loss, the terror that if you don't lock it down, it disappears. This wound originates when good things were taken away. You learn that you must grasp tightly or lose everything. Your system failure point is not random. It connects directly to your earliest relationship with authority and approval. This is not blame. This is diagnosis. You cannot rewire what you do not see. Identify it, own it, because passing the test is not a one-time event, it is a permanent rewiring of your internal state. The test will come again, and again, and again. Your sovereignty depends on your ability to recognize the wound when it's triggered and execute the protocol anyway. Final summary. You entered this video operating in the defendant frame, reacting to her tests, scrambling to prove your worth, surrendering your sovereignty to her emotional demands. You were on trial. You were losing. You now possess the Sovereignty Defense Protocol, SDP, the 5-test diagnostic and counter protocol system for maintaining frame under pressure. You understand the mechanism behind each test. You have the script for each response. This shifts your position from reactive defendant to sovereign judge. The scrambling is eliminated. The frame is secured. The trial is over. You have two options. Continue to react to her tests and watch your attraction erode with each failure. Or execute the SDP and operate from unshakable sovereignty. If you are serious about mastering the internal state required to execute these protocols, not just understanding them, but embodying them, subscribe. The real work starts now. The test is coming. Now you know how to pass it.